Okay, folks, we are going to have some supply chain fun. We were talking about this just right before we got started, just sort of cracking up because supply chain and fun are probably two words you don't really hear together. But we're going to be talking about the supply chain. What does that mean? How does it affect you in your life? How will it affect you in the future? Because there's some stuff that you don't know, well, at least that I didn't know, that I'm going to ask some questions of our next guest, who is Shannon Quinonez, and she is a small business owner from San Diego, right around my neighborhood, with 20 plus years of experience in the supply chain and transportation management. So her current organization is called the Resale Source, and they tap into the growing market of recommerce, which I never heard that term before. So we're going to tap into that a little bit too. And it's rapidly taking over traditional commerce models. Now, I don't know about you, but I've seen a lot of these big box stores closing. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So when not working hard on her business, Shannon is spending time with her husband, David, and her daughter, Maya. And Shannon, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you because we just met just a couple of days ago. And when we were having our conversation, the topic of supply chain came up. And I just started asking you some questions because this is something I don't know anything about. Like, I've heard the words and I've heard people mention it, but I didn't really know what it meant. So first of all, I would love you to talk about what kind of peril or danger or treachery are we in right now? Because here we are at this time. We've seen, the ships are off to at sea. They're still trying to get into the ports, and it's happening, but slowly, and it's been taking a long time. So what are we in for? Let's just dive right on in.
Let's dive in. And hey, thanks for having me, Linda. I'm really glad to be here. So thanks for inviting me to your podcast. So let's start with the basic definition of what supply chain is. I think that's probably where we need to start and just make sure everybody knows what we're talking about, because a lot of people are thinking about those ships off the coast right now as a major supply chain issue. But the supply chain is really the end-to-end chain of raw materials, from raw material all the way to the finished good that then ships to you as the consumer. So when you think about the supply chain, we're not just thinking about, walking into the grocery store and making sure something's on the shelf and grabbing it. It's all the way from the raw material. I use a cup of coffee in the morning as a great example. That bean starts somewhere, and then it's got to be processed. It's got to be moved across the globe. It's got to be refined. It's got to be put into a bag. It's got to be moved to a grocery store and then to your home. So the supply chain is that total process from end to end. And it's not in peril, but it is strained significantly right now. And that's what we're experiencing this holiday season. And it really, truly is a ripple effect, if you think about the supply chain from end to end, of what happened last year in 2020. So in March and April and May, when the world shut down across the globe, and we had essential workers and manufacturing still going, but manufacturing was really working at less than 50% capacity at times. And if you think about a global supply chain that's already strained, then shrinking down to a 50% capacity, well, manufacturing just wasn't moving at the level it needs to move at. Well, once the world kind of reopened and we got manufacturing back up and running, we're now seeing that floodgate that's trying to go into that very small end of the supply chain, which is the shipping and global movement of those goods. And that's what we're experiencing today.
Well, it's, oh my gosh. Yeah. I didn't even think about like that bean starts on a tree and then it has to get processed through a chain of events that happens. Well, now we have, so we have the ships are out to sea. We have the ports are overloaded. We have the trucking industry that is slowing down. We have all these different things that play into it. And then I go to the grocery store and all I see is like, oh, okay, there's no more toilet paper again. Like that's what I see, right? As the end user, no pun intended. Right. And user
I get it. And I like it. So yeah, you're seeing that right now because, so let's start with the ships. So the ships, 90% of the global commerce and goods that are sold move on ships. 90%. Think about that. So when you have a backup in a major port like Long Beach and Los Angeles, you really start to see it. And of course, we're impacted by it here on the West Coast. We can drive up the coast and see the ships waiting to be unloaded. Right now at the Port of Long Beach, there's more than 50 ships waiting. It's a 2-week wait time. Each one of those ships has 10,000 to 20,000 what's called TEUs on it. And those are 20-foot equivalent units. That's the shipping, cargo size. And basically that's one container. So you've got upwards of 20,000 containers on one of those ships just waiting to unload. And each one of those containers has sometimes multiple items on it. And so you think about that ripple effect. And then once it gets off the ship, because there's a whole unloading process that happens, then it's got to get on those trucks or trains that you spoke about. And that's where this backlog is really, truly coming from, and why we're experiencing these empty shelves and this increased demand, hyperactive demand earlier than normal this holiday season.
Oh, so what about, different like fruits and vegetables that are stuck out there? I mean, imagine there's that'd be millions and millions of, or gazillions, even if that's a word, of pounds and dollars worth of, just food that is going to waste. No, I mean,
well, oftentimes food is often moved in refrigerated units. And so those often are protected, and there's a quality control around that. But you're right, as they sit and wait, the ability to keep them refrigerated can, become detrimental and at risk. I don't know much about how that's being impacted directly right now. I haven't really studied the stats of that, but they do have surefalls in place for those types of things.
Okay, so let's talk about so we talk about the ships, the trucks and the trains and all of that stuff, planes, trains, and automobiles. I love that movie, by the way. That's a great Christmas movie.
It is a good Christmas movie. It's a lot of fun. Yes.
So let's talk about, like, right now we're in the holiday season, and we're approaching, the Christmas shopping, and how much is all of that going to impact our shopping? Because a lot of people are moving to online shopping, or had in the past at least, and a lot of the big box stores are closing. There's a lot of looting going on. I mean, there's literally been like some kind of mayhem going on in the streets, lately, and hopefully that'll stop. That would be good if that would stop, but we can't control any of that. But as far as shopping online, the post office seems to be slower, and it's like it used to be fast, and now it's slow, and it's just one delay after the next. And so what do you see for the future? Let's talk about this holiday season, but what about all the way to next holiday season? What do you see happening? What's your forecast with the ship, with the chain?
Yes, no, I appreciate it. And you hit probably 20 different topics we could spend an hour on just there, but just to stick to the holiday season, my forecast is, if you're not shopping right now, and you're not shopping locally, you're going to be struggling this holiday season. The big parcel carriers, we know them as FedEx and UPS, the two big ones, and then the USPS, are all inundated right now. Our consumer shopping habits have changed over the years, and you hit it on the head. We are an e-commerce society now. A lot of the big box stores aren't around anymore. COVID really changed that last year, where we were buying everything online. That inundates their networks. They move 13 to 14 million pieces a day, not during peak season. They expect to move 300 to 400 million pieces just during their peak season. And there's 3 Mondays in this peak season. And if you're not involved in logistics, that's kind of a weird thing to even worry about. But what happens is all the orders that come in over the weekend build up, and then Mondays get inundated. There's normally 2, but with the way the holidays fall this year, there's 3. So that really causes backlog in their network. So the moral of the story is, if you can shop local, if you can support a small business, if you can think outside the box and away from the Amazons and the big box retailers and get into a local business, you're going to be more successful this holiday season. And definitely do not rely on Amazon 2-day delivery in the last 2 weeks of the Christmas season this year. It's just not going to work this year. And you'll have some disappointed people.
Shop local, shop early. Shop local, shop early. Okay, that's the moral of this story. Okay, but if you end up shopping on Amazon and there are delays, just know that is a possibility, very high possibility. I'm in the book industry. I'm a book publisher, and I'm finding books are taking anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, for delivery. And before, it was 4 or 5 days I would get them and delivered. So a drastic change. So we have to change with the times, unfortunately. And yes, things do change, and sometimes we have to adapt to them because we don't have any control over them. But I want to talk about your new venture, your new endeavor. I don't know, you'll tell me how new it is, but you guys are doing something called Recommerce. So I never heard that term before. So first of all, share with us, what is Recommerce? And if I actually have an idea of something that I'll share with you. I'll be very vague about it because it's an idea I've had for years, but I have an idea and I want to see how I can do something with that idea related to Recommerce. So share with us, like, what is Recommerce? And then let's talk about your business and how you got into it, because it's an industry I would never have thought of. So go ahead and share with us, like, what is Recommerce?
Sure. So let's start with Recommerce. So Recommerce is exactly what it sounds like. It's the repeat of commerce. So items that are purchased and then taken home and either returned because they weren't what the consumer considered what they wanted, or it's an item that has been used but then still has some life in it. So there's two kind of multifacets to Recommerce. The first one that I discussed there is what's called open box Recommerce. And really what that is when you go to a store that has a liberal return policy, like a Costco, and we all do it. We go to Costco and we start getting excited and we put a bunch of stuff in our cart. And we get home and we say, you know what, this isn't really what I wanted. And I opened it, but it wasn't what I needed. I didn't use it. Costco's going to take that back, but Costco cannot sell that to you as an end consumer as a new item anymore. So they liquidate that. The item is perfectly fine. It's in beautiful condition. It's really never been used. It's really just gone home with someone. They liquidate that to resellers like me. And then I can buy it for pennies on the dollar compared to what you would have paid for it in the store as brand new. And then I can sell it to you for a less expensive price point.
How does somebody get on like a Costco reseller list?
Well, there's multiple ways to do that, but the biggest way is to actually get a resale license. And that's the most important thing to do. And so every state has different rules about reselling. So I would suggest that you look up what your local government says for a resale license and then get that from there. Once you have a resale license and a permit, you can register for auctions and reselling, wholesaling, liquidation auctions with the government, with the state, with big box retailers, places like that.
So you just Google resale auctions like that?
Mm-hmm. And there's quite a few big organizations that do it.
Okay. So it's that simple. I like that. I like simple. Simple is always good. Simple is good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even through all the paperwork, the government paperwork. It's simple.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the hard part, right? So now you are the business that you are the resale source.
Yes.
And you guys sell tools, equipment, not normally handbags, but I know right now you are selling handbags. So I put that up on the screen here, designer handbags. And so how did you get into the reselling of tools, and why did you do this? So you did this about a year ago or so?
Yeah, we actually started our business. We filed for LLC in February of 2020. So you can imagine what it's been like going into business. So we've been in business for about a year and a half. And some people say we were stupid. Some people say we were brave. I go with the brave part. But it's been a wild ride, and we've definitely had to adjust our business model based on COVID. So I'll start there. But you're right. We focus on tools, hardware, and home improvement items. When you think of Recommerce and reselling, most people think about shoes. They think about collector's items and clothes. We know about secondhand clothing stores that have been around for, centuries, it feels like. And so we really wanted to tap into a market that just wasn't tapped into. And that was tools, hardware, home improvement. My husband is a former, what I would call a construction guy. He worked in HVAC and air compressors. He knows a lot about tools. And what happens with tools often is people purchase them for a project at home or, a one-time use. And then they either sell them because there's plenty of life left in them, or they return them to some of those big box hardware stores because they also have liberal return policies. And so there's a market for people who are looking for Recommerce Tools. It's normally your young guy who's getting into construction for the first time and needs to build up his tool belt and toolbox. It's someone who's a DIYer who doesn't need that $400 saw that's brand new, etc. So there's a huge market for it. And we just wanted to tap into a market that wasn't really fully being, developed at the time.
That's cool. So, so the difference between reselling, which is what you do, and doing Shopify, I don't use Shopify, so I don't know what it's all about, but I know that it's like drop shipping or reselling as well. So Shopify is something that you would use to sell your products on, or?
Yeah, Shopify is a platform, as I understand it. I don't use Shopify either, so I don't know much about it, but I believe it's a platform that you put a website on, which you can, our business model has a website. Not every reseller does. So we're a little bit of a hybrid. We have an e-commerce site as well as a warehouse and storefront here in San Diego. So we hit both sides of, the world. We're cutting edge with our e-commerce, but we also have that, that storefront that you can attend to too. But Shopify, I believe, is just a platform to actually put items on and resell.
Okay. And so you can check her out at theresalesource.com. That's RESALE source.com. Check it out. See what they've got. Got some designer handbags for sale right now. It's not what they normally have, but hey, you know what? It's the season. You might as well jump into it, right?
That's right. So we do have some consumer electronics that we don't sell regularly. We have cell phone accessories, and our prices range anywhere from, a couple dollars all the way up to hundreds of dollars, depending on the item and what you're looking for. So we have everything for, everything at every budget level, and we sell new, open box, pre-owned, and then pallets for resale for other resellers who want to sell at swap meets or other places like that.
Wow. So you have all of this in the warehouse, or you don't do any drop shipping? It's all, you got to buy it and then you house it until you sell it, like that?
That's correct. Yeah. So we have a warehouse and it's about 3,000 square feet. We were lucky enough to invest in that. And so we store everything. A lot of what we do is buy not only the open box, but we buy excess and obsolescence and surplus inventory. So that's also how we get a deal for all those new items and be able to sell them to you at a cheaper rate. So we store them and we ship them out from our warehouse in Otay Mesa.
Okay. Wow. It's just a whole world I didn't even know anything about. So I feel like I've been, hiding in a cave. Well, I have been hiding in a cave for a year and a half, but I'm out now. And so I am curious. Let's say somebody is out there. Okay. I'll use me as an example. I've had an idea, a business idea, and I thought drop shipping was the way I needed to go. But after hearing you speak today, I think that there may be a different way that I can go and doing this reseller. So if I understand correctly, one of the first things I want to do is I want to go out and get my license, my reseller's license. And is that a state reseller or is that county? How does that work?
It's all of the above. Plus you need a federal tax ID as well. So you're hitting every single level. So you'll have a federal tax ID, you'll have a state reseller's permit, and then a city of San Diego or county of San Diego, here in San Diego, reseller's license as well. Sales and tax permit. So you have to make sure you know what all of your legalities are for wherever you're doing business at.
Yeah, you don't want to be hit hard at the end of the year by Uncle Sam or Uncle Martha, or whatever. And then, so now your company, can you ship only in San Diego, or are you allowed to ship anywhere in the world?
I can ship anywhere in the world. I partner with FedEx, so we do have global rates. We offer free shipping for any shipment that's under 150 pounds to the US 48, so the continental US. We do charge for shipping for Alaska, Hawaii, Mexico, Canada, but we do have the ability to do that. But where we dabble and where we sell, the price point is so low that shipping internationally doesn't really make a lot of sense because you end up paying more for the shipping than you would for the actual item that you're purchasing. But we do have the capabilities to do that.
Yeah, been there, done that. I just shipped something to the Philippines. It cost me $15, but the shipping was like almost $60. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely more expensive.
duties and taxes and import fees and all of those things that the receiver is then responsible for, that then drive up the cost of the item too. And they're more than likely going to be able to get whatever they're looking for locally at a cheaper price point.
Okay, so let's go back to my scenario. So I have this
Mhm.
idea of something that I want to sell, and
Mhm.
it is related to shoes. I'll just throw that out there because you
Mhm.
mentioned shoes. And what's the first thing I should do? So I've got my license now. What's my next step? What should I do?
Well, I think it really truly depends, and that's a horrible answer, but it depends. It depends on what market you're in, what type of message you're trying to get out. There are a lot of great third party um, wholesale sites. eBay and Amazon are great places to sell and resell on. If you don't want to manage and maintain your own website and warehouse space, those are great, third party locations to sell on. Shoes are also great on something like a Poshmark, which is very focused on fashion. So depending on what business model you're sitting in, you can use a third party site like that. You can develop your own website, but then you have to manage the SEO and the online presence and building that up with your listings online. You mentioned drop shipping, depending on what your financials are and your ability to store and house what you're trying to resell. Amazons of the world and other companies have great warehouse space that they do lease out, and then they manage that last part of the supply chain for you, which is the storage and then distribution to your end customers. So you have those options. We weighed them all with our business, and we just felt like we were in a place where we could manage it locally under our own management system versus third party shipping it out.
Okay, I was going to ask you that next because you guys, you
Mhm.
did decide to have your own website instead of going
Mhm.
all those other routes. So it's fascinating. It really is an interesting topic. If you're sitting there listening to this, you're like, I thought of doing something like this. I want to know. Like, I'm just going to ask you flat out, Shannon, is
Mhm.
this lucrative?
Yeah, it has been. Our e-commerce side of the business is lucrative. We're still growing. We're a fairly new organization still, year and a half in. And no business is lucrative, or very few new businesses are lucrative in the first 5 years. But I Recommerce is growing at a rate of 5 times faster than regular commerce. There's a huge desire for items that still have life in them. It's good for the environment. It's at a better price point for someone who maybe doesn't, have the extra income to purchase something at that higher price point. It's for the Gen Xers, the millennials. There's this deeply embedded interest in keeping the life of goods going and being better for the environment, less waste, more recycling, those types of things. It hits those points, and it really truly is a change in thought process in the consumer. And so I do believe that it's the wave of the future, and we're getting in early, and we're proud of it.
That's awesome. I love it. I love how you've gone to, do your own website instead of, being where a lot of other people are on all these other platforms. You mentioned the eBay, there's Amazon you can sell on,
Yeah,
Shopify, Poshmark. There's so many different places that we can sell our products, but, you end up paying for that because they're going to take a percentage of that. So if you want to keep more in your pocket, but you do have to do more work, you got to do
mhm.
the marketing, you got
That's
to
right.
get your message out there. You have to have your images, they have to be good. You have to make sure that the languaging that you're using is SEO worthy, which is search
Mhm.
engine optimization, so that when people go to Google something, they find you over all those other eBay things. There's a
Mhm.
lot that goes into it, but definitely something to look into if you want to have your own business. Trying something, you can even do it small. You don't have to have a 3,000 square foot warehouse to get started.
Mhm.
A friend of mine he actually created the game called Pictionary, which many people have played that game, and he
Yeah.
started off in his living room, creating this game, selling it from his living room. And same with UGG boots. They just started, in a small place, had all these boots, at the house, and started selling them out of there. So we don't have to have big warehouses to get started with something like this. But go to check Shannon out and the resale source. I want to call retail the resale, RESALE source.com. Go check it out. See what they have. By the time you're listening to this podcast, they might not have the handbags on sale anymore, but keep watching because they will have different things for sale as different things come up. So Shannon, I have one question I ask every single guest, and that is, what is one action step our audience can take today, tomorrow, or next week to up-level their personal and or professional life? One action step.
It's a great question. And I think you could probably get some really amazing answers. One thing I do that I really swear by and has really helped me over my career over the last 20 years is what's called time blocking. And Google that if you don't know what that is. But there is some fantastic literature about time blocking online. But essentially, I time block my day. It's the only way for me to get through managing as many hats as I wear as a small business owner. And I really do believe that it helps me stay focused. It helps me really, truly get the best of my time and for people to get the best of me, the best quality results out of me as well. So time blocking is a huge thing for me. And I would recommend it to anyone. I would recommend starting with the day. You don't have to go in and time block every minute of your life, but start there and kind of see if it works for you and see how much more efficient you are with your time and your day. And I think it's a really positive action to take.
I totally 100% agree. I actually created a document called Do It, Delegate It, or Dump It. And in that, I do include the time blocking. So if you're out there thinking, what is time blocking? Can I get into it? Just go ahead and go to womenactiontakers.com/dump it. Dump it. Womenactiontakers.com/dump it, and see how that will really help you to increase your time. That's the thing. That's the one thing. I love your answer there, because I didn't know what time blocking was until I knew what time blocking was. Right. And what I love about it the most is I block off, my time during the day. When I'm doing it, I don't do it 100% of the time, because sometimes I'm just over it for right now, And sure. So, but when I am doing it, I feel so accomplished, and I could be doing the same thing 2 days in a row, one day not time blocking and the other day time blocking. But when I use the time blocking method, it really helps me to remember how much I did, but also I just feel like I accomplished so much more. I mean, what do you get out of that time blocking? You mentioned like having more time and being more available to people, or being more in tune with people, right? And being focused and everything. But what else would you say would be something that's a benefit that you get out of that time blocking?
Oh, I mean, so many, but one of the big things you already touched on, which is it helps you really evaluate what's the most important thing you need to get done and get that on your calendar. What's something that's important, but maybe isn't so important that you have to get it done right this second? All right, that can be time blocked a later time. What's something that can be delegated? And us ladies, we do not like to delegate. It's just, I think it's in our nature, but learning to say, you know what, I can delegate this. I can trust, my associate or whoever to take care of this action. And really, I can focus on the important thing here. So I get a lot of that out of it. It really reminds me to make sure that I'm not trying to take everything on my shoulders, and that I'm actually, delegating where I need to. And then the dump it, right? What's on my list that just has no return on investment? It's not going to improve my business. It's not going to improve my relations with my employees. Get that off my list. It's not worth my time. And then really getting that time blocking onto your calendar. Like you said, when you're not being distracted, when you're focused on one thing and you really can give it your heart, you're giving the best quality, and the person who's receiving that action is getting the best quality from you.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Yeah. Squirrel. I got it big time. Okay. I got that squirrel syndrome. And you know what I love about delegating? You mentioned delegating. I had a hard time learning how to delegate because I felt like I needed to do it all. And one thing I started doing a couple years ago is kind of like flipping my language around. And so what I mean by that, for example, is say I have something, I'm overwhelmed. I have too much to do, and I know I'm not going to be able to do it. And so what I do is I will say to myself language, like as an example, I would say, if somebody was overwhelmed and I took some of that off of their plate to help them, how would that make me feel? Mm-hmm. It would make me feel good that I was able to help them. Mm-hmm. So I say, okay, let's flip that around. When you give something to somebody to do, it makes them feel good about being able to help you. So
Yeah.
I flip my language around to make it easier for me to delegate. And so what I believe, here's what I truly believe about delegating is that when we delegate, we're actually empowering others to step into their brilliance. We're empowering others to do the work. We're empowering them. We're giving them something that makes them feel good about what they're doing. So delegation is a skill that is necessary. I truly believe that. And it's changed my life learning how to delegate.
I love that. And I absolutely agree. And it also, we can say we trust our associates. We trust you. We've hired you. We trust you. But that's a great way to show someone that you trust them too. I'm delegating this very important task to you. I trust. And then, know that you can take care of it for me. And it's going to help you grow. And it's going to help me be a little less stressed out and a better boss to you. So I love
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Exactly. Well, Shannon, I want to thank you so much. I feel like we could talk for hours and hours and
Yeah.
hours, but we're not going to do that today.
Nope.
So go again, check them out at theresalesource.com. And then remember, shop local and shop early. Shop local and shop early. Any last words, Shannon, before we head out?
I would just say, you can help a small business without shopping with them as well. So if you know a good small business that you like their posts on social media, write them an awesome Google review, recommend them to a friend or family member who's maybe looking for a shop local location for the holidays, who wants to help small business. Those are all free, easy things to do. And small business is really, kind of getting sucker punched this year. So anywhere you can help them, it's a great way to do it. So it doesn't always have to cost you money. You can do it through social media and other platforms as well. And Google reviews are super important too. So
that's fantastic. So while you're at it, rate and review this podcast interview. Okay.
Right.
Let's support this podcast interview.
Yes.
Go out there, rate and review it, right?
Perfect.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Just good luck on the holiday season to everyone. Keep your patience, understand that it's a different year, and and renormalize, crafts and homemade goods and experience goods too. If you're not finding that perfect gift, those are also really amazing gifts for someone as well.
Yes. Have patience. Everybody have an amazing day. And remember, do it, delegate, or dump it and start your time blocking, because it will give you more time. Thank you so much, Shannon. Truly appreciate you. Go to, again, theresalesource.com. Check it out and see what they're reselling right now. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.